Say yes to new beginnings.
Yes.
Say yes to new standards of excellence.
Yes.
Say yes to engaging reportage with a difference.
Yes.
Introducing Yes International Magazine. The time to say yes to your dreams and aspirations is here.
Again and welcome to another edition of our Instagram live session. My name, like I always say, has not changed. My name remains Azuh, Arinze, and my guest tonight is Mr. Bolaji Okusaga. Mr. Okusaga is the MD CEO of Precise. Precise is a public relations company or agency. They're also into other things, which Mr. Okusaga will be sharing with us tonight. Mr. Okusaga was formerly the MD of the Quadrant Company, a member of the Biodo-Shobanjo-led Troika Holdings. He attended the popular Obafemi Awolowo University, where he did not only study dramatic arts, but was also the best graduating student in 1994. A strategy and brand devotee with experience in mass media, PR, banking, etc. He also has a master's degree in communication and language arts from the University of Ibadan. Now, by virtue of what Mr. Okusaga does, his imprint littered the PR sector, which is one of the reasons we have invited him to talk about his PR Odyssey with us tonight. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, friends, fans, followers, join me as I welcome my friend, my brother, Mr. Bolaji Okusaga, to tonight's Instagram live session. Please remember to follow us on all our social media handles. And don't forget that you can also always watch the previous editions of some of our beautiful interviews on our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel remains the Yes NGTV. It is spelled THEYESNGTV. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Okusaga, you're welcome once again.
Thank you, Azuh, for inviting me on this.
Now, you started out, working with Minaj as a researcher and so on and so forth. So why did you dump journalism in quotes, for PR?
Well, it's an allied profession. So at some point in time, you just have to ask yourself, it's like someone who read medicine in Nigeria becoming a nurse in America. Then you ask the person, come, you're supposed to be a doctor. Say, well, when I got to America, I saw that nursing was okay, so I decided to become a nurse, But the two, feature within the same healthcare industry. The same way with information management, journalism and PR work very closely. There's no way you're going to be able to deploy your output as a PR person, without thinking about the media. So media relations is about, if you look at the splits in the PR industry, it's about 60% of the entire PR industry. Right now, with digital communication coming on board, there's some bit of reduction. But if you look at, on the average, most of the work we do will always end up, with positioning people in the media. To be able to do that, you probably need the knowledge of journalism. You probably need extensive contacts within the media space to be able to do that for the clients we work for. So essentially, they are allied. So in terms of, it's like you're moving upstream, let's say journalism is downstream, PR is more like an upstream activity.
Interesting. Interesting. Now, as a PR practitioner, you rose to become the MD of one of the leading PR agencies in Nigeria, and that's talking about the Quadrant company. Why did you resign to be on your own?
Well, you see, again, people talk about transitions. Life is about transition. Once you are here, the other time you are in another place. I make bold, and it's not a boast. I ran the Quadrant company as the longest serving managing director of that business for well over a decade, with a whole lot of energy, and I did it as much as I would do mine now. In fact, at my last board meeting, I remember telling them that age is no longer on my side. I'm going to be 50 this year. And so if I started doing my own thing just less than 4 years ago, I started doing my own thing 3 years ago, it meant that I started running Quadrants age 35 plus. I didn't leave until I was 47, looking on to 50. And it was time to go. I'd pretty much done everything I set out to do at the company. And the rest would have become more like an entrepreneur. All right, so it was just time to go. It was time to go.
All right.
So I left. Yeah.
Interesting. Now, your entrepreneurial journey, how has it been so far?
Well, what I would say essentially is that, a journey or a mission, it's more a mission than a journey. If you are driven by something like a vision, then you need a mission to take it all out. I remember then at Quadrant, I started telling the board that it was time to transition our practice. That the hybrids were already eating into our space, and the space had changed so dramatically over time that one couldn't possibly be doing the same things we were doing in Quadrant and be at the top of the game. So I've already started talking a whole lot of the things I'm doing right now in Precise, which will start to manifest because I've spent enough time in the laboratory. So it's time to start to pull them out of the bag for the world to see. Number one, the landscape has changed. I took over Quadrant at the time when Facebook was at infancy. It hadn't become as ubiquitous as it was now. In fact, there was no Instagram at the time. And LinkedIn was probably just a very fringe player. Google had started in 1998. But a whole lot of the things we know today in the digital space did not really exist. As a matter of fact, blogging and citizen journalism came to meet me. I remember in those days when I gave you a call to say, please, do you have stories I want to use on my platform? And she had emerged, as the queen of that segment, overnight, because that had become a very important segment within the information management ecosystem. We had seen the transition. We had seen the like of Speed Media, the like of the other hybrid agencies like Terragon and Co. come into that space, essentially eating out of our pie. And we had no reaction. All we were doing, just the same way traditional journalism is also trapped in a trap. In the same way PR, the orthodox way, is in a trap today. Traditional journalism, we found that in the days of yore, Concord had a circulation of 500,000 copies and had a pass around value that was 300% more than a circulation. So that meant that in terms of pass around, you buy at least 3 more people will read that paper. So eventually your total eyeballs will be about 1.5 million per issue. And it was a day. Today, the highest circulating print media, Complete Sports, is only able to do 100,000 copies with very limited pass around value. Even the Punch and the Vanguard that you speak of have less than 100,000 in terms of circulation. And even if you try to extrapolate and say that their pass around value is another 300% of that, how much is that? So who reads those fine prints? Coupled with the fact that the newsprint industry is even a big mess, so the guys are buying at a very prohibitive rate and they cannot pass on that cost to the guys who are reading. And then the reading public is also thinning out because the media consumption habit of the people has changed. A lot of the news I get now, I get online. So by the time you even give me a physical copy of a paper or a magazine, I've already read the stories. So the whole idea of breaking news, the whole idea of platform agnosticism, the The whole idea of, you just news on the go has made traditional media always play second, become a rebased platform. So by the time Nnamdi Kanu was arrested, it was already all over the place. So by the next day when the print media was reporting it, it was more like they were rebasing news. So people go and read hard copies now for editorials, op-eds, and analysis. They don't go there to read news anymore. Deep so true for PR. We keep playing that game. But fancy, most of the things that happen to our clients that denormalize the operating environment do not come from those traditional media space. It comes from the blogosphere and the social space. All right? If a brand were to all of a sudden move from having a sentiment score that puts it in a positive periphery, it will be because it has a probably clean profile online, not because of what is said of it offline. So tomorrow, if a blog decides to use a story against my client, the blog probably has a circulation figure less than 10,000. The blog will do something, will go and post it on a forum like Nairaland that has over 1 million views. All right? And so it extends the value of that. It makes whatever they've done more newsworthy than what is on in print. And these are things we are starting to confront as PR practitioners. And a lot of us are not even thinking about how to respond to it. So that was part of. So I remember in 2012 I did a 5-year strategic plan for Quadrant at the time, and I told them it's high time we started to rethink our business and gradually get out of this space and educate our clients that news has moved and the nature of it is consistently changing, such that even gatekeeping had moved from institutional gatekeeping. So even if I knew all the publishers and all the editors within the Nigerian Guild of Editors, the real news will not travel through their hands. It will go through an institutional gatekeeper like Google that puts up an algorithm that decides which takes preeminence. So all of the landscape has fundamentally changed, such that our practice has also needs to change. But I doubt that a lot of the practitioners have seen it as such. Where like the boiling frog, we're still coping with the heat until it burns us.
Interesting. Now, your company is called Precise. Why did you settle for that name?
Well, right now analytics is fundamental to what we do. You've got to be able to precisely show the value you bring to the table. It is no longer about sentiments. You've got to show precisely. So in conversations around what the next mission must be, I found out that we needed to be precise. We shouldn't just be, near it. We should be precise, really sharp in terms of intelligence, in terms of deployment, and in terms of impact. All right. So the name pretty much imposed itself on us, as opposed to us determining that was the name.
Interesting. So what separates Precise from the other PR agencies? What stands you guys out?
Fundamentally, I don't say I'm a PR agency. I say I'm a reputation design person, a reputation generation company. All right. Before we talked about reputation management, which is pretty much a reactive activity because you now manage the reputation. But right now, you don't manage the reputation, you generate it, you design it. Okay, so how did Elon Musk suddenly emerge? There was conversations around, the electric car, conversations around renewable energy that made him just emerge as the entrepreneur to be towards innovating in space that mankind wanted, especially against the whole issue of environmental change, global warming, and all the like of it. How did Jeff Bezos emerge from just trying to do an online bookshop to become who he is today, even owning a media platform like Washington Post? All right. So it's about you have to tell that story. All right. And in telling that story, there's a purpose for that storytelling. You are trying to generate a reputation, or you are trying to design it. You are not managing that reputation. You are generating it, and constantly, because that reputation is constantly evolving. So that's how come we really don't call ourselves, even though everybody is a PR practitioner, but we try to differentiate ourselves to say we don't manage, we generate. Because we don't do the reactive thing, we do the proactive thing.
All right. So what exactly does PR mean?
Well, it's at this intersection of, trying to mold relationships. So when they say public relations, it's about relationships. You could not become whatever you become without relationship, which means that if I say that I am a champion and nobody believes I am not. But if I say I am a champion and I have cultivated relationships that affirm the fact that I'm a champion, everybody then says he's a champion. He's a champion. That's clear. And that is in contradistinction to advertising that says I am a champion and puts it all out there. How believable is that? But PR doesn't do first person conversation, it does third person conversation. In which case, it's about validation, it's about endorsement, it's about people conferring credibility on you in the process of building the reputation. And the process of it is through management of relationships. And that's essentially what PR is.
All right. So what is PR not?
Well, PR is not spin doctrine. PR is not a lot of the things the so-called media aides or political appointees do. They're basically just engaging in weird and outward polemics, not managing the reputation of their principles. So it's a whole lot of the things people call PR here is not. And then, of course, people want to give bribe. They say, oh, let's do PR. That's not PR. That's bribery. And that's what you're doing. You're not doing PR, you're doing bribery. So there's a whole lot of things that is so-called, but it's not what it truly is. You're not going to give somebody a brown envelope and say, Mutishi PR for you. I've done PR for you. You are not going to start doing spin doctrine, the like of what they do here, abusing people and, trying to just generally engage in polemics, brickbats, and they call that PR. Say, no, that's not PR. PR is about who are my stakeholders? Who am I speaking to? What are the expectations of me? How do I manage those expectations in what I say and in what I do? That is what PR is about. So you end up already buying goodwill even before you open your mouth because you've done the right things. So in the world we're about, the whole idea of moving from a triple bottom line where you're looking at people, planet, and profit to sustainability. You have already ingrained that into your business and you tell the story of what you are doing to make the world a better place. Then other people come in and validate what you've done. That's PR. It's not when you fall into trouble and then you get some spin doctors to start to write stories that are contrary, because people don't believe it just because you've said it. People want to validate it in your actions and what other people say about you.
Interesting. Now, what mistake must a PR practitioner not make?
Well, the mistake they must not make is that a whole lot of people put themselves into the projects they do. So I am working for a client who fundamentally has to address a press briefing. Why should I be the one putting my face out there? Once in a while, the client insists, but I always say, no, it's always better. It looks organic. The moment I sit down there and I'm the one taking the cues, managing everyone, it is no longer organic, it is orchestrated. You want to try to create experiences that seem organic to the listening or the viewing or the relating public. So, and a lot of us make that mistake. The best people are very quiet and very private people because they're not out to tell their own story. They are telling the stories of others. So, and they don't want to get in the ways of the stories they are telling. They just want the story to do for themselves. But unfortunately, in this part of the world, you find that we are blowing our own trumpets and getting in the way of things, and that's really not particularly professional, but a lot of us do it out here in this climate.
Interesting. Now, what excites you most, about being into PR?
Well, the only excitement is that I get to know about practically everything and every sector. So you come and tell me about aviation, I can tell you a whole lot of the plans. You tell me about digital economy, I'll speak to it. You tell me about agriculture, I'll speak to it. You tell me about healthcare, I'll speak to it. Because I have got clients in all of these industries. And to be able to carry on effective consulting for this client, I must understand the nature of their industry. and how they play within that industry. So the kind of education that comes back to me is pretty much exciting. It makes you look like, if you follow me on Facebook, for instance, you find that there's no topic I don't talk about. From economy to politics to industries, from power to renewable energy, because I work for clients within these industries. And over time, I have ingrained myself into the nature of the industries, and I understand prevailing issues within those industries. But that's how much I'm able to tell the story of my clients, and that's pretty much very exciting. So I'm not doing, I always tell people I don't do PR like a journalist, I do PR like a consultant, because I need to understand how you play within the space you play for me to be able to work